Hello, welcome. I am Tanya and it's lovely to have you with me. We're going to go through a 60-minute yin practice that really focuses on the whole side of the body. So a couple of things you will need for your practice: a bolster or a cushion, blocks if you have them. If not, it's okay, we'll manage without. And also a strap of some description. I always have my trusty dressing gown cord, a belt, or a strap, a yoga strap if you've got one, or a t-shirt will also do the job. So we're going to start in a seat to begin with, and we're going to move out of our seat in about 5 minutes or so. We're just going to start to get into our practice by starting in a seat and doing a bit of gentle breath work. So get your sit bones elevated on a block and we'll begin. So closing down your eyes as you arrive. And just giving yourself the first couple of moments just to tune into the breath, to allow the mind to move through the awareness of the inner landscape of the body. And to notice if there is anything going on in the body that feels uncomfortable. Perhaps there is some pain. Maybe you're nursing an injury. Maybe the body's just feeling a little bit tight and constricted. So as the mind gently scans and moves through the body, just simply observing, noticing. And then I want you to really pay attention to where your bottom and your feet and your legs are connected to the earth. And really sense into and feel that connection. Notice the parts that are a little bony and hard on the earth's surface, the parts that are soft and squishy. And then using that awareness as a space of foundation, almost like you're sinking deeper into the earth's surface, really feeling that sense of solidarity and where the sit bones, back of the legs, feet are connected to the floor. Take a deep breath in. And let all the breath go. Travel awareness down to the base of the spine, to the sit bones and the base of the feet, legs, sides of the thighs, any part of that lower part of your body connected to the floor. Really feel that sense of arrival in your seat. And then as your next in-breath comes in, I want you to lengthen out the spine. Crown of head reaches up towards the sky. And I want you to particularly pay attention to the side body. Noticing, can you create a little bit more space from the armpits away from the hip creases? You will need to slightly draw in the navel towards the spine. You will need to pull the shoulders back, lengthen out the back of the neck, and gently coax the crown of the head up a little more. I don't know about you, but I think I just grew about an extra inch or more, just with the intention of lengthening out the spine and the side body. And seeing if you can maintain that integrity in spine, in length of the torso, and then gently allow the mind to just start to notice the breath. And notice as the mind begins to really focus on the breath, does the body begin to sag and soften and lose the integrity a little? And if so, as the next breath comes in, gently lift, elongate that space from the armpits down to the hip creases. Would you imagine like someone's placing their hands under your armpits and lifting you up like an adult would to a young child? Using that base, that foundation of where the sit bones, the hips, the legs are connected to the earth as a grounding intention to then rise up out of the hips. And we're going to take 5 more breaths here. Every in-breath an invitation to really set the integrity in the spine and to maintain that elongation through the back body, that elevation and lift through the front body, and the length through the side body. If the body fatigues because you're not used to sitting up so tall, just acknowledge and honor that process. Perhaps you need to wiggle and shake out and stretch through the shoulders to allow yourself to sit up again, even if it's just for one breath before you need to move again. And at the end of those 5 breaths, just give yourself a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Big breath in through the nose. And the breath out through an open mouth. Perhaps there is a sigh. Then just take your hands and rest them palms facing down on the thighs. Maybe even hold on to the kneecaps, whatever is easily accessible for you. And we're just going to start gently rolling the neck with particular attention to the side of the neck. So drop the right ear to the right shoulder and just gently stretch out through the left side of the neck. And then you're going to roll the chin down towards the chest and slowly stretch out through the back half of the left side of the neck. And then keep rolling the chin towards the left, stretching out through the back of the right side of the neck, until you land with the left ear dropped down towards the left shoulder. And then we're going to roll the head slowly backwards. Don't go too far if that feels uncomfortable. Just finishing off that back half of the circle to land with the right ear at the right shoulder, and then bring the head back up. Take a deep breath in and out. And then we'll drop the left shoulder to the left ear to the left shoulder. Roll the chin down towards the chest. So just moving in that half circle in the opposite direction. Rolling around until the right ear is on top of the right shoulder. And then keep sending the head back. Finishing off that full circle until left ear comes back to the left shoulder. And then bring the head above the shoulders. Then we're going to take our hips off whatever you're sitting on. And you may like to bring it to the side. You may not need it at all. We'll see how you go. And we're going to unfold the legs and keep the left knee in front and the left leg towards the back. So your left shin will be parallel to the long edge of your mat and the right shin will be parallel to the short end of your mat. You can have a bolster or block beside you if you have the capacity to go down and range a little bit closer to the floor. If not, I would suggest taking a hand straight to the floor. You need to take your right hand, provided your right leg is at the back, and hook your hand onto your shin. You have a lever and an anchor. The right shoulder will stay plugged down, so just really draw the shoulder down the side body and the back body, and then you're dropping your left ear to your left shoulder. So we should all have the left leg in front and the right leg behind. Right hand is hooked onto the right shin, and then the left ear is dropped to the left shoulder. And you should feel a pretty decent stretch down the side of the right side of the neck. For many of us, we experience stress in our daily lives. And we can, most of us do, carry our stress in our shoulders. It's a very primitive, protective mechanism in a state of stress, often triggered by fear. We hunch the shoulders up, and it could be very, very subtle, but over a long period of time, constantly, subtly holding the shoulders in a clenched, contracted position can cause a lot of tension through the shoulders, through the neck, up into the jaw, into the throat, and the back of the skull. So with your left ear dropped to your left shoulder, just start to gently sweep the chin down and back up. And you'll start to stretch into and find different parts of the neck that need the stretch a little more than others. For me, as soon as I start to sweep my chin down, I get this huge pull right up behind the back of my ear. And a big stretch down the front of my right arm. So even this stretching in the neck really sort of starts to refer and feed down into the top of the shoulder, in my bicep, my deltoid. So just gently ranging the neck, slowly chin sweeping down and up until you find some spots that really need some attention. And then we're going to hold and breathe deeply into those spaces, sending light and freedom, openness, using the breath to create space and release tension. We're really working with the whole side body today because I think it's a part of the body that quite often gets missed. We work quite hard and stretch and nourish and strengthen the front and back sides of the body. Those big prime moving muscles, our core, chest, our quadriceps, and then at the back, our calves, our hamstrings, our glutes, all of the muscles in the back body. But we forget all the intricacies of the muscles that line and run and cross over from front to body, down the side body. And in the context of the way of the world and how much uncertainty and fear there has been, when we curl our shoulders forward in that state of stress, all of the muscles in our back and all of the muscles that link down into our pelvis can then impact on hip range of motion, flexibility and strength, and can start to cause pain syndromes without any specific injury. It's just an overuse and an overstretch and an over-contraction through muscles that we're not necessarily aware of. Just give yourself 3 more breaths here. We are going to work the whole way down the right side of the body, and then we'll swap and do the left. And we're doing this just so you can experience what it feels like to really have a comparison of what the body responds to with this deep fascial stretching down one side compared to the other. Slowly bring your head back up to a neutral position. You may need to rest there for a moment. Release that clasp of the hand on the shin. If you were gripping quite tight like I was, you might need to wiggle your fingers out a little bit. And then just come back to a seated position for a moment. Just rest your hands on your lap. And just tune into the subtle differences in the right side compared to the left, particularly around the neck and the upper shoulder through the trapezius muscles, which line the whole upper part of that neck shoulder region. You may sense no difference at all, and that is absolutely okay. For me, there is a lot of warmth and there's a lot of energy and vibration moving through the whole arm now, all the way down to my wrist and palm and fingers. So staying on the right side of the body, we're now going to lay down onto our right side. And before we go there, we're going to grab a block. Ideally, you have a block because it's quite firm. Like my block is really quite hard and will provide quite a lot of pressure. If you don't have a block, you could use quite a thick book would do the job, or you can use your bolster as well. It will still benefit you. So you're taking your block on the medium side, so not the complete high side, but the medium side towards the top end of the mat. And you're coming to lay down over the block with the side of the under armpit resting over the block. So for women, it's basically in alignment with where you wear your bra. That's that side body strap component. My entire shoulder blade is completely clear of the block. So I don't have it right underneath my armpit and then pressing onto the bone of my shoulder blade. I am lowered down, but not so low that I'm missing the under part of the shoulder. And you will find a spot, if you just gently roll forwards and backwards, you will find a spot through the muscles underneath the armpit there that doesn't feel very nice. And this is where we want to stay and hold. All of these muscles underneath the armpit are mostly primed for rotating the shoulder inwards. So they are internal rotations of the shoulders. And in that state of stress and fear and worry and concern, when we hunch our shoulders, the shoulders roll forward, we overly internally rotate, and then all these muscles underneath the armpit become quite long and overstretched, which can cause tension, and it also causes weakness. So then it becomes challenging to roll the shoulders back. It becomes challenging to strengthen the back line of the body. And all of that is really important for integrity and posture and in your spine, which of course helps us to maintain alignment in our meditation. And of course, you really see the difference in people who walk with sagged shoulders and closed off through their chest compared to someone who walks with their shoulders back. And there's this instant sense of confidence and pride in the way that people look. You might be able to, I've got my head rested in my right hand. You may be able to extend that hand out completely and drop the head down. You might even like to take a pillow or bolster in between your head and arm for some support. So just leaning into that space with as much grace as possible. If it's hurting you, you're probably doing the right thing. I would normally say if there's any pain, we want to avoid, but this is one of those trigger points in the body that can be really quite uncomfortable. If you've ever had any issues with your shoulder, or you've had a decent massage and your massage therapist has put their arm out and stuck their fingers into the back of your shoulder blade here, into the subscapularis, it's probably one of the most excruciating things you can experience in a massage, I think. But it's just really releasing this muscle that lines the underneath of the shoulder blade. And you can only really get to it from that position. It's quite uncomfortable. If you are experiencing quite a lot of discomfort, I would encourage you just to gently close down the eyes, give yourself a couple of deep breaths, and allow the concentration on the breath to move you through the discomfort. Try and soften the whole body as much as you can. When we feel uncomfortable, we tend to grip and contract in other parts of the body, unnecessarily using energy. So just allow the body to be soft. Let the breath carry you into a more spacious experience, and know that it's almost over. Just 3 more breaths. You're going to use your left hand to push into the floor to lift yourself up out of that side lying position. And you're either going to just roll over to face the other way, or send your hips to the other side of your mat, which I will do so I can keep facing you. And we're going to come straight over into another side stretch, moving down the body a little more, taking your bolster or cushion across the middle of your mat. You're going to lift your hips up onto the mat. So my pelvis is in a neutral position, my right hip stacked over my left hip connected to the bolster. I'm going to lay down over the bolster. Take the bottom leg, the left leg bent on the floor, and the right leg is straight. Your heel in line with your hip. You don't want your foot too far forward or too far back. And then drop the foot down to the floor. And you should feel a little bit of a stretch through the lower aspect of the torso, but mostly down the side of the hip. If you have any impingement issues in the sacroiliac joint, the SI joint, this might feel a little bit too much through the joint here. If that's the case, I would encourage you to take a block underneath that extended leg. It'll just take away how much stretch is happening through the side of the body. And then you can just rest your top arm on top or on the floor. Maybe it feels nice to take the arm all the way overhead. And then closing down the eyes and just watching the breath. If it feels uncomfortable for your left shoulder down on the floor to be outstretched underneath your arm, you can take the arms straight out ahead and away from you, and use a block or extra cushion underneath the head for support. I've just made an adjustment, and that definitely feels a little bit more comfortable for me. Just making sure as you settle into the pose, as you look down towards the body, that your right hip, the top hip, is not falling forward or back, that it's directly stacked on top of the left, and that your foot is also directly in alignment. It'll give you the best opportunity to open up through that side body. Giving yourself 3 more breaths here. Just move any props away from your head and feet. I'm going to roll straight over onto your belly and have the pelvis completely supported by your bolster or cushion. Just take your forehead down onto the back of your hands. The tops of your feet will be flat on the floor, and there's just a gentle bend through the hips here. So it's really just a transition pose, just to create some neutrality through the side body and just to take some of the pressure off the hips. And just give yourself 5 breaths here. Then slowly press yourself up. Come and lay all the way over onto your back. You may take a bolster underneath your knees if you wish. And just make sure your strap is close by. And just give yourself 5 breaths laying flat on your back. Using these little moments of space in between where you can tune in to the subtle pranic layers of the body and notice the influence of the stretches on your physical and energetic body. I have a lot of warmth around my ear and my hip and all the way down to the side of my right foot. Now we're going to come into a lower ankle stretch. So taking your strap around the ball of the right foot. So this is the last pose on the right side. You want to keep your hands as high on the straps as possible so the arms are straight, and then gravity can just weigh the shoulders down into the floor. Keep both of your hands up as high as you can and make sure the strap is right across the ball of the foot and not in the instep or the arch of the foot. You'll get much more targeted stretch if you keep it on the ball. And then the inside hand, so the left hand, which is on the inside of the right foot, you're going to pull that end of the strap down. And as you do, it will tip the right knuckle of the big toe down towards you, and the outer edge of the foot will reach up towards the ceiling. So as you do that, we call this a sickle foot. Well, that's the term we used in ballet and dance. I don't know what to call it in any other language for you. It's a sickle foot if you're a dancer, where the ankle is completely kinked. The inner step of the foot is pulling down and the outer edge of the foot is lifting up. I get a really significant, almost burning sensation from the side of my foot down across the outer ankle, all the way to my right knee. So it really stretches down the right side of the shin shaft. If you wish to take this a little bit deeper, you could from here Also send the leg across the left side of the body, but keep both of the hips grounded. So you're not lifting and taking the foot over and lifting the right hip. You want to keep the back of the right pelvis grounded, and simply in that sickle foot position, send the foot across, keep the right pelvis connected to the floor, and you will likely get a deeper stretch down into the outer aspect of the right hip as well. That is just an extension option for you. You don't have to take that. And again, if this is quite a strong sensation like it is for me, it's just an invitation to tune in to the wisdom of the breath, to keep the mind focused on the breath. And remember the quintessential teachings of all spiritual philosophy and yoga and Buddhism is the law of impermanence. That if there is a big sensation, the sensation will not be there forever. It's just a moment in time of a sense experience that will be gone in a couple of moments. And you can tolerate and move through and stay with the experience just by using the breath. On the next breath in, slowly draw the leg back up into the center. Release the ankle, take the strap off, take the leg down. Both legs supported by the bolster, the spine flat. Take a nice deep breath in, laying here flat on your back. And let all the breath go. And for the next 5 breaths, just bringing your awareness to the crown of the head and gently scanning down the whole way through the body to the toe tips, and just making a gentle right to left comparison to see if you can sense or experience different sensations in the right side compared to the left, which has not been nourished or attended to at all. I feel like my right side is about 5 inches longer, a lot warmer, and has vast amount of vitality and energy and vibration in it. And my left side feels almost numb, like there's nothing there, no sensation. A little bit of sensation in my left toes, but not much else. Take a deep breath in and let all the breath go. And then we're going to move through that whole sequence on the left side, but we're going to go in reverse. So we're going to take the strap across the left foot, so staying on our back. And we're going to move up the body from the toes back up towards the neck. So staying on your back, strap around the ball of the left foot, kick out through the back of the leg to begin with. Arms long, holding high up the strap. Pull the right side of the strap down, so the instep of the right foot draws down towards your face, and the outer edge of the foot reaches up towards the sky. And give yourself a few moments there before you decide if you're going to take this anywhere else, to just allow the body to recognize and accept that we're here in this deep stretch, the side of the ankle. And then only if you wish, keeping the back of the left side of the pelvis connected to the floor, making sure it doesn't pop off. You're just simply sweeping the leg across, directly across to the right side. And it won't go very far. Mine's only moved maybe 20 to 30 centimeters, really not very far at all. If I go any further, my left hip wants to pop off the ground. And I've not at all really instructed any mindfulness of mind, really instructing how or where to consume mind's attention throughout this practice. So if you're feeling a little bit scattered and distracted and there's a lot of dialogue in the mind, I would invite you to, for the rest of the practice, to really help calm the nervous system, and in calming the nervous system and the energy body, we also calm the mind. To work with a lengthened exhale, so a 4 count in breath and a 6 count out breath for the rest of the practice. Just taking 3 more breaths here. If you haven't taken that extension of sweeping the leg across to the right, you might like to just give a little try for the final couple of breaths. And then you draw the leg back to center, release the stretch through the side of the ankle, remove the strap, left leg comes down to meet the right leg, flat on your back. 3 deep breaths. going to roll over and sit yourself up for a moment so you can set yourself up. Bringing the bolster into the center of the mat again. And we're coming straight into a side lying position, this time with the right hip on the bolster so that we can stretch down the side of the left leg. So having your bolster or cushion about in the middle of the mat, right hip comes down and is completely supported by the bolster. So you really don't want the bolster up too high around the rib cage or down too low. So my entire side hip is completely supported by the bolster. Bending the right leg, so the bottom leg, and then the left leg stays straight. Again, just making sure your left hip is directly on top of the right and the left ankle is directly stretched out from the left hip. And then you have the option of where you have that right arm and shoulder. I'm choosing to take my right shoulder completely underneath my left, stretching my hand out in front of me, and my head is supported by a block. And again, if this is too much stretch through the side body or there's any impingement through the left sacroiliac joint at the back of your spine and hips, then placing your left foot on a bolster, a cushion, a block, anything that just slightly elevates the left foot will take some of the stress of the stretch out of the left hip. And the invitation is to just simply and instantly allow the mind to be consumed in awareness of breath as a way to keep the mind occupied, present, cultivating this mindfulness muscle, following the breath in and out, counting the breath, lengthening the breath, doing whatever you need to support you to carry on with the rest of your day. Three final breaths here, stretching out through the left side body. And from here, on the other side, we rolled over onto our tummy and kept our hips flexed, but we're going to roll over onto our back this time. So just bend the top foot, roll yourself gently over onto your back, and your hips will be supported by the bolster. If it feels comfortable for you to stretch both of your legs out so that we're just opening up through the whole front of the pelvic girdle here. If that feels too strong, you can keep your feet flat on the floor, edges of feet to edges of mat, and gently knock the knees into the center and take your arms wherever you feel comfortable. And we're just here for 5 breaths. To come out of this pose, slowly roll back over to your side. Press yourself up into a seat. Move your bolster out of the way. And we're swapping over to lay this time on the left side of the body and coming back into that gnarly little shoulder stretch or armpit stretch or pressure point. So having your block closer to the top end of your mat and laying down over the block to the side, upper body, right underneath the armpit, but trying to keep the whole shoulder blade completely out of the picture. And then as you lay down over it, just gently rolling back side to side until you find that spot where you grimace and grit your teeth and maybe gasp a little because it feels really yucky. And you know you've found the sweet spot. It might be nice for you just to constantly roll forwards and backwards. Or maybe there's nothing nice about that. I'm not sure. And of course, if you're experiencing any major discomfort, just using the breath as a way to move through the experience. Rest in that place of knowing that the pain or discomfort won't be there forever. Just 3 final breaths here. And you'll use your right hand to press yourself up, all the way up into a seat. And we'll come into our final pose, which really opens up through the left side of the neck now. We're going to come back into that position that we began our practice in. This time the right leg is coming in front, the right shin parallel to the long end of your mat, and the left leg internally rotates and sits behind you with the shin parallel to the short end of your mat, taking your left hand, hooking onto the left shin, right hand onto the floor beside you, and drop the right ear to the right shoulder. I get really quite an instant deep stretch that feeds from the back of my left ear all the way down through my shoulder, through the top of my shoulder, through my trapezius, and all the way down. This fascial stretch that goes all the way down to my left hand. It's quite a strong stretch, so I don't need to drop my ear to my shoulder too much because it can be too uncomfortable. So just gauge and adjust the position of your head to a space that feels manageable for you. And give yourself a few breaths in stillness. And then if you wish, you can start to gently sweep the chin down towards the right shoulder and back up again. And as you do that, you'll find some little nuances within the whole side of the neck and throat area where there is a little bit more tension. And it might call for you to hold and take a few breaths and stretch into different parts of the neck as you range through that space. Final big deep breath here. And let the breath go. Bring the head up to a neutral position. And then spin around onto your back. And come and lay flat on your back. Bolster underneath your knees if you wish. As you find your final resting pose, for the first 3 or 4 breaths, just gently scan again from head down to toe. Each breath just allowing the awareness to move down through the body. And take a moment to check in and compare left to right side body. Hopefully there is a little more symmetry. And in some ways, the same level of vitality and energy moving through both sides of the body now, having been equally nourished and stretched. Mostly working there through the fascial network as opposed to stretching through the muscular aspect of the body. I would encourage you to take your arms beside the body or even out quite wide with the palms facing up so that the shoulders are gently rotated into an external rotation. Pull the shoulders down the back of the body, lengthen out through the back of the neck, chin slightly drawn in, eyes softly closed, taking a deep breath in. And letting all the breath go. Allowing the body and mind to rest, to freely breathe without any effort or control. As your next breath arrives, create a fullness to the breath. Deepen the breath in, puff the chest, enliven the energy body. And gently allow the breath to escape, an open mouth sigh. And for a moment, just allow the breath to return to a natural rhythm with a little bit more depth as the mind scans through the internal landscape of the body to just notice the impact of the practice on the physical and energetic body. And then draw your hands together over your belly and just gently rub palm to palm, creating a little friction and warmth as the hands connect. And then roll over to your favorite side. And then as you rise up to a seat, can you land in your seat? Just as we began the practice, a foundation of solidarity through the sit bones, the back of the legs and feet, integrity in the spine, chest is proud and elevated, back body is strong and straight, and side body is long. Back of neck, gently reaching back to reach the crown of the head up towards the sky. Take a deep breath in. And let all the breath go. And draw your hands to your heart, Anjali Mudra, palm to palm, bowing head to heart. Honoring yourself and your commitment to your practice. Namaste.